Hello, my name is Héctor Hernandez and welcome to my second feedback video in which I will be analyzing the presentation of the philosophies and their take over homosexual marriage and their relationship with Agamben's theory. So let's begin. So let's start with the analysis of the overall performance of the team, and then we will move on in the second part of the video to a more specific analysis of the actual information that the team gave. So during this part, we'll be analyzing some aspects of the structure of their presentation, their speech, and more things related to how they performed on their presentation. So first of all, we will start analyzing the first point of area of opportunity, which is the lack of structure on the presentation itself, on which, in order to identify areas of opportunity in the performance, we identified that one of the main problems was the structure, because it tended to be repetitive, in which they start with the analysis of the problem, then go to the conceptualization of a Agamben, then go to a third-party author, and then go again to the problematic, and etc. So it was repetitive. Even though it was repetitive and didn't follow the structure of the rubric, the structure works and actually communicates the ideas and the concepts they were trying to communicate. So points up for that, because they actually show that they know what they were talking about. And there was a good presentation and design of the presentation, even though in some parts they had a lot of text, especially in the part of Emilio Sagrero. And some quotes were not correctly referenced, as it goes in here with the surname, year, and the page and number on which they had a G in there. So those were the main areas of opportunity and main points. So after visiting these points, we identified that actually the team managed to communicate their ideas, even though they had some flaws. But overall, the team had a really good communication, and they actually managed to create a dynamic on the team. So points up for that. So right now we will go on with the next part of the video, where we will be discussing some more punctual points of the information they promoted. So we'll start identifying that one of the terms that they actually used in order to develop their problematic was the term of the state of exception, which was really well explained and actually over explained in certain parts, in which they really related how the rights are vulnerated when there are other factors such as social factors, and this term that they actually couldn't manage to actually implement on a real problematic, which was homophobia. And they actually mention it, and they developed the topic really good and mentioned that it is a direct cause of how it generates state of exception over the homosexual marriage. But they also should focus on actually developing more this topic of the homophobia and how it affects our current situation. And also they should focus also more in investigating more about the state of exception and the cases of homophobia inside of the Mexico state. As in the presentation, we had some data about some of the states that currently doesn't permit the homosexual marriage, and we really need more information, more real data about how this problem is actually reflected on our society. So points up for developing really good problematic, and points up also for identifying really good the state of exception. And overall, we need to identify that they also really had a good manage of the third party author and the Agamben quotes, which they really nailed it with the quotes that they use. For example, they nailed it with Delgado Parra's quote, on which they actually imply that there is existent a totalitarian system which actually promotes this state of exception and vulnerates the rights of certain populations. Also, they have other quotes referring to Agamben that were really good selected, and also other information that was referenced from institutions, etc. And the point where they lacked and they really need to work on is in the part of Emilio Sagrero, where there was information with actually no citation or APA references. So even though it lacks certain information and certain data, we identified that the team actually managed to relate the information of the state of exception to the homosexual marriage topic, on which some rights are vulnerated of the homosexual people due to the state of exception. So points up for that, for generating this critical analysis. And there is also a really good point on which they managed to link it to the analysis of violence and social dignity. And the state of exception actually has a link to the studies of violence, dignity, and social justice, because it actually violates the rights to non-discrimination, equality before the law, and the right to form a family. And the team actually promoted some really interesting solutions for the problematic. So their solutions are clever because they are at the reach of a Tecnológico Monterrey student, on which they promote talks in order to make people rethink their ideas over homosexuality, and also protest in order to people to facilitate the adoption by an homosexual marriage. So points up for that. In conclusion, the team had a great performance despite certain issues, and they actually demonstrated that they know and they could link successfully the topics related to a gambit and the state of exception to the problematic of homosexual marriage. So, with this being said, I can only recommend that they perform a deeper investigation over homophobia and the situation in the state of Mexico. And thank you for your attention and have a great day. That was my second feedback video.